This is Defenders TV Podcast episode 223 about Jessica Jones Season 3 episode 1, A.K.A. The Perfect Burger. Welcome back, fellow Defenders. We are back on Defenders TV Podcast for our final series on Marvel's Defenders, Jessica Jones Season 3 episode 1, A.K.A. The Perfect Burger. Did I say burger right, John?
Burger, I think you'll find.
I must admit, I am quite hungry after this episode. That does sound like a great burger. I am one of your hosts, Derek.
Yes, a tasty burger indeed. What's it? 2 parts something, 1 part something, 1 part something, with tons of grease and fat. So make sure to have the burger after strenuous activity indeed. Yes, I am one of your other hosts, John. Welcome back, fellow Defenders. Good to have you back on board. We hope you enjoyed, if you did make the crossover to TV Podcast Industries, onto our Good Omens podcast, the 6-part series on Amazon Prime. It was a hoot, it was a laugh. It was totally off kilter, and it talked about an angel and a demon coming together to prevent Armageddon. So absolutely fabuloso, great series. So if you're going to check that out, please also check out the podcast over on tvpodcastindustries.com.
Yes, that was a weird one for us. Must be very odd for some of our Defenders who just listened to Defenders TV Podcast and heard me constantly criticize humour and comedy movies, and what we did over there was a 6-episode comedy television series. Great fun. Check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, all 6 episodes of the actual TV show, and you can check out, as John said, the reviews of Good Omens over on tvpodcastindustries.com, where we will be putting up all of the episodes for our Jessica Jones coverage for Season 3. We will eventually be shutting down Defenders TV Podcast, because Defenders TV Podcast was obviously set up for all of the Marvel Netflix TV shows, and this is our final one. There's only 13 episodes left of this show. We will be covering, obviously, more Marvel stuff after this finishes. We've still got Spider-Man Far From Home coming up later on this year as another movie coming up, and we will hopefully have the Disney Plus stuff coming up towards the end of the year that hopefully will start coming out with some Marvel stuff. We still don't know whether that's going to be international as of yet, but hopefully we're hearing good things, and hopefully we're going to get that worldwide either late this year or early next year.
Yes, so remember, catch Defenders TV Podcast over on TV Podcast Industries. That's where our new home will be, where we will look at all this lovely, marvelous, Marvel-orific Marvel stuff.
Right, without further ado, let's get on to our discussion about Jessica Jones Season 3, Episode 1, A.K.A. The Perfect Burger.
Burgers. Yes, Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Once again, this episode is written by Melissa Rosenberg. She is the showrunner for this show since right back in Season 1 of Jessica Jones, and she wrote Season 2 as well. She has written the first episode of each season and the last episode of each season. Interestingly, just in case you weren't aware of this, Melissa Rosenberg actually handed in her notice on this show way before any cancellation announcement for Jessica Jones. Before any of the Marvel Netflix shows were actually cancelled, Melissa Rosenberg had confirmed that Season 3 was her final outing on Jessica Jones. We heard that towards the end of Season 2 of Jessica Jones. So regardless of whether the show had been cancelled or finished up at Netflix, Melissa Rosenberg was doing her last time on this show. We have got a quote from her, and we'll talk about that at the end of the episode instead of feedback. This episode is directed by Michael Lehmann. This is the first time he's directed anything to do with Marvel, but he's done lots of TV work, from Veronica Mars to True Blood and Dexter. Earlier in his career, though, he was a film director. Done some very interesting films in the past. One I absolutely loved, which was Truth About Cats and Dogs, with Janine Garofalo and Uma Thurman. Really, really good film. Ben Chaplin, I think, was in that as well. And he also did Heathers.
Wow.
A fantastic 80s movie with Christian Slater and Winona Ryder. Really interesting career that he's had.
Yeah, good stuff.
I know he did Airheads and Hudson Hawk in the 90s, which weren't as popular as his other films, but when he's on form, he does some great, great movies.
Yeah, Heathers and Truth About Cats and Dogs, 2 classics there for sure. So yeah, really good to see what he brings to Jessica Jones, the first episode of Season 3.
Speaking of which, John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for this episode?
Sure. After her mother, Alisa, was killed by a well-meaning Trish Walker, Jessica Jones is trying to live up to the hero tag that her mother gave her. When Dorothy Walker hires Jessica to find her missing daughter, she discovers that Trish is living her dream as a hero and wants Jessica to give up. Meanwhile, Malcolm Ducasse has a new job working as a fixer and sometime investigator for an ailing Jeri Hogarth and her high-end clients. While Jeri struggles with her ALS and how close she is to her end, Malcolm questions his choice to go into business with her. Also questioning her decisions, Jessica meets a carnivorous new friend, Eric, who wants to teach her how to make the perfect burger. It might not have been a euphemism when they met, but Jessica is more than hoping to seal the deal with Eric until a knock at her door from a masked assailant with a knife leads to Jessica bleeding out on the floor as Malcolm rushes to help.
That's encapsulated the episode pretty well, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think this is a really interesting episode. I'm not entirely sure it will be for everyone, but I actually kind of really like this, private investigator kind of film noir slower pace for the opener. It really felt kind of nicely film noir lethargic in a sense of how it paces through the investigation.
Right.
And all kind of crescendoing to this final scene. And it was really nice. It kind of, in part, reminded me a bit of Pink Panther and all of that, certainly with Trish donning her sort of cat burglar, or shall I say super cat burglar outfit.
That is such a weird comparison. The Pink Panther, the comedy films from the 70s with Peter Sellers.
Yeah, just more the sleuthing, the cat burglar element of Trish,
right.
And I think just the general PI vibe and detective vibe from this. I just really, not the comedy, I don't think so much, but I really like this. Although I do think that Gillian, the new PA, certainly provided some great comedy moments there in the first meeting of her right at the start of this episode. I must say I did laugh out a lot here with old Gillian and her relationship with Jessica.
Yeah, she's really good, isn't she? And I have to say, for me, I think this feels like the perfect Jessica Jones episode. I don't want this show to be like paint by numbers kind of thing, but when you're coming back after being off for a year, I think it was March last year when season 2 all dropped, so it's been quite a while since we've seen an episode of Jessica Jones. So when you come back, you kind of want to get back into Jessica Jones style quite quickly. And I think with this episode, we'll go through all of our top 5 case notes in a moment, but I think with this episode, it feels like the theme tune to the show. It has that slow kind of start where it feels like Jessica's doing all the investigation, and then it just builds up to the crescendo at the end. You think it's going to end with sex, but it actually ends in attempted murder, effectively. So it's kind of building all the way up to that towards the
absolutely.
End, just like the crescendo of that awesome theme tune. Great to hear that back as well.
Yeah, I think with that, on to our first case note, Jessica Jones on the beach. I have to say, the contrast between the lovely sunny beach with palm trees, people in their swimming costumes and so on, to Jessica with her leather jacket, jeans, and leather boots was really funny.
It's great as well with the voiceover going, sometimes some things just don't fit, and it is Jessica on the beach. You think it's entirely possible this could have been Oscar and Jessica on holidays at the start of this episode, but that's not going to be the way it goes. It's not going to have Jessica in this happy holiday mood at the beginning of the season. It would be a very strange way to start.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really nice that here Jessica is trying to, follow through with being the hero that she always didn't want to be, but in memory of her mum, to try and keep that going. Yeah. So she's conflicted a bit, but nonetheless, it's for the memory of her mum. And we see here her trying to really do the right thing, stay within the bounds of the law, I think, that we find out from Detective Costa a bit later on, but ultimately racking up about 88,000 hits on YouTube with this image of this father who has kidnapped his daughter to take away and bring her out of the US to Mexico. And yes, he doesn't want to get physical and lays his hand on Jessica. And of course, red rag to a bull here, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, just throws him across the beach. It's a really cool video that you have up on YouTube. And I love that we still have this relationship with Vito, the kid of Oscar upstairs, where he's absolutely in worship of Jessica Jones. I think last season ended, season 2, the last scene of it ended with Jessica in the apartment telling stories of her heroic life. And I love when she comes back to the apartment and you have Vito going, "Did you save the girl? Was she in danger?" And she goes, "Well, she was close to a sunburn." It's kind of this great little moment. But we do get a little reference here to the Sokovia Accords, once again, from Detective Costa, where he says he's throwing her a few cases as long as she doesn't break the law, because there are heroes that are registered to do that type of thing. And if she doesn't want to do it the way that he's telling her to do it, then she should leave it to someone that is registered hero. So a nice little reference there to the old Sokovia Accords, which we've completely forgotten in all the years since Avengers Age of Ultron and Civil War. It seems to have just kind of disappeared in the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe anyway. But these are more ground level heroes who are much more tied into the normal day-to-day laws. But I do love that Jessica kind of throws it back in Costa's face, saying, no, our deal wasn't that I didn't break the law. Our deal was that you don't catch me breaking the law. Yeah,
exactly. And of course she was in Mexico, so out of jurisdiction, so to speak.
Well, maybe.
Or maybe, yeah. Because it's a UN-based Sokovia Accord. Mm-hmm. But there's also the reference to Captain America from The Saved Girl, where she goes, "Captain America would never have done this," sort of giving out to Jessica because, well, she didn't want to leave Mexico, she didn't want to leave her dad, and she's now back with her mum, who also gives Jessica a good run for her money in the old verbal stakes until Jessica kind of pauses, thinks about turning around to presumably beat her up, and then then the mother runs back inside to make sure she isn't at the wrong end of Jessica Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say I like her slag that Jessica's like a third-rate Joan Jett. So Joan Jett, obviously, her music has been associated with the show quite a lot since the beginning, but I kind of like that it's a third-rate Joan Jett. Not a second-rate, not a first-rate, a third-rate wannabe, you know. Really, really gets Jessica's back up. But I'd just say she's really trying to be a hero here. You see her kind of sitting down and thinking exactly what's best to do, and really what it seems like her version of being a hero is helping out people that need to be helped and can't pay. So kind of similar to Matt Murdock in season 1 of Daredevil, that, you know, effectively she's giving out her PI services now to people that can't pay. Everybody's on this sliding scale of 0, as she says. Why don't they just say pro bono?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do like her kind of, I hate heroism, you know. Mm-hmm. Why have I saved this girl who's giving out to me? The mother's giving out to me. The father gave out to me, and I've got to suck this all up. It's really classic Jessica Jones of like the world I hate and everyone in it. And I think that extends to her new assistant, Gillian, who I just thought was like fantastic. As soon as she pours the whiskey, Gillian is there in my heart. I just love the fact that, you know, she's organizing the clients, she's organizing the cases, she's got a new sofa in bright orange, sans fleas, so that, you know, she's got the phone that Jessica doesn't know how to use because there's too many buttons and it's far too complicated. And she pours Jessica the whiskey, you know, while speaking to her client, McTeer. And of course, she has the new slogan for Alias Investigations: "You've got a hero on your side."
I love that with Jessica going, "I keep telling you not to say that." And Gillian going, "Yeah, like, don't listen to you." This is another interesting one with Jessica having another assistant that works for her that she doesn't want anywhere near. Remember, Malcolm, all the way through season 1 and season 2, she kept pushing him away and going, like, get away from me, you know? Don't want your help. From the point when he became clean and got off the drugs, basically, he has been hanging around her. Now he's no longer hanging around her anymore. She's got Gillian, another person that she doesn't want anywhere near. But I guess, as we find out a few times throughout this episode, Jessica's fame does kind of precede her a lot. A lot of people know exactly who she is because of all the things she's done and because she's superpowered and because of this video going around on YouTube, of course. They know who she is now, so she probably does need an assistant because people call up quite often. I think that's how season 2 ended, with a lot of phone calls landing in her voicemail box from all these people that need a hero to come and help. So she's actually, even though we've lost Luke Cage and we've lost Danny Rand, we do actually have a hero for hire here, and it's Jessica Jones.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The hero for hire is still around.
It's Jessica Jones, yep.
On to case note number 2. Jeri Hogarth is taking her final journey. Yes. We have this really interesting sort of moment, a very brief moment with Jeri, where she's falling out of bed. Her legs can't support it. It's the kind of progression of the ALS that she has.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. You know, it's the first significant symptoms of ALS as she falls out of bed. And she's considering these pills, these kind of killer pills that will kill her ultimately. We saw her get them and source them in season 2. And she's there pondering whether she needs to take them now, but ultimately goes to Jessica Jones to be her go-to, where Jessica Jones will slip her the pill because she can make the tough choices, and she has killed before. And, you know, there's a little bit of conflict here. Jessica's kind of goading her, saying, yes, well, because I've killed before.
Exactly.
Whereas Hogarth is more about, you can make the hard choices here. You can have that dispassionate view.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing here where we see, you know, Jeri really starting to consider and think about her own mortality, certainly with the ALS getting worse.
Yeah, it's one of those things that didn't really carry over from season 2 for me, because it's been such a long time since we watched and talked about season 2 of Jessica Jones. I kind of forgot how fragile Jeri is now. She was very strong by the end of the season. We saw her taking back her clients and creating her own business, her own, out of Hogarth, Chow and Benowitz. She set up her own organization, just Hogarth on her own. And we saw that kind of strengthen her towards the end of the season. So you kind of forget how, you know, how weak underneath it all she is, and how close she is to death, really. This is the journey we're going to be getting for Jeri as she realizes how close she is to death. You know, she's considering euthanasia. And that moment with Jessica, I have to say, wonderfully played once again with Krysten Ritter. She just can do these turns in the way that she responds to a comment from somebody that only Krysten Ritter can do. You know, this moment where Jeri says to her, you can make the hard decisions. You can tell Jessica's going, oh, great, once again, you're just thinking of me as that murderer, the one that killed Kilgrave. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, we've known each other for years. Now you're telling me I'm a friend. Oh, no, I'm not a friend. I'm just a person that can easily kill whoever wants to be killed. You know, it's just a lovely moment between the two of them. And you see how far Jessica pushes back against that. Oh, yeah. That kind of attitude. She's been working really hard, as we've said earlier on in the previous point, that she's been working really hard to get to this point of people considering her a hero. And even her friends don't consider her a hero. Even her friends are brandishing her with this brush that says, oh, well, you'll be able to kill me because you don't really have a heart, like.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want this brandy that she pours with ice or not? And then how many pills? Too many, and it spoils your journey. Yeah. You go too quick. Too few, you might throw up and it might not work. Yeah. So what do I do here? And, you know, really pushes that home. It's interesting. And we see Jeri beginning to, as I say, think about maybe how she will be remembered, what she wants to do with her money, and so on. And we get a little glimpse back into, a former lover here at a string quartet and this charity foundation, the Zoe Leon Art Scholarship, which Jeri has been supporting for a long time, but she's never attended the events because it is run by one of her ex-lovers whose heart she broke.
Yeah, we hear here that it's been 25 years since Jeri has met Kith before, and Kith's now married with her husband Peter. I love that Peter knows exactly who Jeri is. I love that they have that relationship between the two of them, that he's fully aware that there was a relationship between Kith and Jeri all those years ago, and that she's the great love that got away, effectively. And, you know, Peter even comments on it, kind of going, oh, I'm so glad you broke her heart that many years ago, because it's good for me. That's how we got together, absolutely. You know. But he also knows everything about Jeri as well. He knows that she has defended loads of vigilantes, that she's created this kind of niche business, that she defends vigilantes and defends super people, and kind of almost is saying to her, I'd like to get into that business and pick your brain at some point. Jeri responds that she's only defended a few. It's kind of the way she says it, but just trying to recount the ones that she's defended. We know she's obviously defended Jessica multiple times. She has defended Luke Cage, and she worked for Rand Industries, so I guess she must have defended Danny once, or at least. I know that she's appeared in the show and obviously has a connection with Danny in the comic books as well. But
she certainly got him out of trouble with the police or some authority. Not necessarily maybe going into a court, but certainly, as the lawyer on retainer, has been able to pull those strings and so on, for sure.
And we know she didn't actually defend Frank Castle, because that was Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson, and she hasn't defended Matt Murdock, but Foggy Nelson works for Hogarth, and he's the one that defended Luke Cage, and got him out of prison. So we know there's lots of connections there with the vigilantes that she's worked with. But a nice little call out there to connect all these shows in the last season.
Yeah, there's a really nice conversation as well here with Jeri and Malcolm as well. And I think that moves us on to case note number 3, which is Malcolm's new job. Because I love the fact that he's kind of whinging to Jeri that, he thought he was going to be an investigator for her new law practice. And in the end, he's kind of ending up being more of a fixer for her high-end clients here. And I love how Jeri is quite dismissive in that, you do a good job here, Malcolm, but we've had this conversation before. Work it out. I need both. I need an investigator and a fixer. Work it out whether you are happy with that. But don't bring it up to me again, because you need to figure out whether you're happy in this job. And I thought that was really nice. I mean, again, I think it's, Jeri with her illness, maybe just like, I haven't got time for this anymore. It is, she's just spoken about one of her other employees who is saying she will have her name on this door very soon. And I think Malcolm is seeing her as well, So, again, Jeri's whole being here, I think, is very much on the future and how to leave her past and legacy, in a sense. So it's a really interesting thing. But Malcolm's new job, certainly, how should I describe it? He is doing God's work in a snazzy suit. It's good work, or is it effective work?
It's terrible work.
It's dreadful work. Yeah, exactly.
He seems to be protecting his high-end clients, I suppose. So we see a little bit here in the description of his job, obviously, is with this character of Cody Willamette, the drunken baseball player, who he's seen crash 3 times. So multiple times probably before that, but 3 times Malcolm has been involved in either paying off or sorting out at least the people who've been involved in these accidents caused by Cody. To the point where he's just losing it. At the end of season 2, Malcolm wasn't working for Hogarth. He was working for Chang, who'd been approaching him throughout the season, trying to get him over from Jessica's practice. He eventually moved to work for Chang, and now he's working directly for Hogarth, it seems. He's moved from this organization and moved directly underneath Hogarth. An interesting choice. He had wanted to work for Hogarth, and she said he wasn't tough enough. She needed someone like Jessica, so that seems to be playing out a little bit here, that even though he's working directly for Hogarth, she's still not completely sure he's the right person, because she needs someone that has the kind of moral grays that Jessica has, and Malcolm doesn't feel like he's that kind of person. We see, as the episode goes on, we see that he's following Cody so that he can prevent maybe the next accident, and then he causes the next accident. He effectively gives Cody a career-ending injury, possibly career-ending injury. So he's definitely out for the rest of the year, but we don't know whether it's going to be out forever kind of thing. But he's certainly tried to take him out so that he doesn't have to deal with this crap anymore, basically.
Yeah, and I think he has answered Jeri there in a quite extreme way by causing that accident with Cody after seeing Cody get into his car drunk. I think that his girlfriend who's with him won't get into the car with him. So, I think, Malcolm certainly has upgraded, maybe not so much his job in his own mind, but certainly the apartment. He's moved apartments into a bigger apartment. And his lifestyle, the snazzy suits. He's now dating with seemingly the next partner of Jeri's practice, who seems to be really successful. He's got the party going on, all this kind of stuff, and yet there's something gnawing at him that he's not happy with. And it seems all based around the type of fixing work that he's got to do. Effectively getting people who probably should be being sued through court or arrested by the police, getting them off that justice or that consequence by writing different notes. I mean, the first crash we see with Cody and this other guy, he effectively hands the car over to the other guy who can then go and sell it at this junkyard if he just mentions his name, and gets the guy to sign away any right and non-disclosure to further pursuing this baseball player.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like an enforcer for the mob is the way that Malcolm's gone with this.
It does, doesn't it?
You know, originally it's this whole idea that he just gets the piece of paper signed off, gives the guy a car, and then just walks away from the situation. This time it's like, I can't do this anymore. Cody's gone too far. I'm going to take him out. So that's pretty drastic, as how far he's gone. I don't know how it's going to play out in the next couple of episodes, whether Jeri will find out or whether he'll tell her, or will he break down and tell anybody about it, you know, because this is not what Jeri wants. Jeri wants somebody to fix this stuff. She doesn't want her clients taken out by car crashes.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think it's a really nice reconnect with Malcolm, to be honest, because my overriding impression from season 2 was that we didn't really have that connection with him. And maybe that was because he was falling out with Jessica and that relationship was so difficult. There was a distance there. It feels like you're reconnecting with him. A bit like with all the characters in this show, in this episode. As I say, I think the slower pace of this for the opener, this reconnect, it has been really quite nice. It feels like coming back to the Jessica Jones world and family. So I really enjoyed that, to be honest.
Absolutely. Speaking of family and other members of the Jessica Jones world, that's going to case note 4 on Trish's trail. So we have the arrival of the wonderful Dorothy Walker at Jessica Jones's door early in the morning or late afternoon. I'm not really too sure with Jessica. I know she's in bed after going out drinking the previous night, but that could be 2 o'clock in the afternoon with Jessica. But at this moment is so well played. I love Rebecca De Mornay and Krysten Ritter's interplay between the two of them as Dorothy knocks on the door, trying to get Jessica to go and find her daughter Trish, who's been missing for 24 hours. But I love as Jessica opens the door, sees it's her, closes the door in her face. Then she hears that Trish is missing, closes the door in her face again. You know, she wants to hire her, closes the door in her face multiple times, laughing at this idea that Dorothy actually thinks Jessica wants to be involved in Trish's life again. You know, Trish took a gun and shot Jessica's mother in the head in the final episode of last season. Their relationship is split, but we know, as the audience, we know that Jessica has been watching the TV show, catching up on and keeping tabs on Trish, basically, catching up and making sure that she knows what's going on in Trish's life as much as possible. We do hear later on in the episode that Dorothy tells Jessica that Trish has moved house, and Jessica wasn't aware of that. Jessica wasn't aware that she'd sold everything up and moved into a new place. So while she is keeping tabs on her, she's not really involved in her private life anymore.
No, absolutely. I mean, you have to say the strained love-hate relationship between Dorothy Walker and Jessica Jones is just pure acidic magic. I love that it's played for comedy, but also for absolute sincerity as well. You know, there are moments here when Dorothy turns up at Jessica's door and, you know, there is that moment where she goes, the best thing about you was Trish. And you see the hurt as Jessica effectively throws Dorothy out. You know, the acidic tongue of Dorothy Walker and how much it penetrates that iron-skinned armor of Jessica Jones.
Yeah, it's just that thing, that person that's closest to you is the one that can always cut you to the bone, right? Because obviously Jessica lived with Trish and Dorothy for years, and Dorothy was a very abusive parent, as we've learned over the years, very verbally abusive to both Trish and Jessica, but Jessica always protected Trish from that. But we see this here. It's not just that she says Trish was the best thing about you. It says Trish is the only good thing about you. A real throw it under the bus kind of thing, you know? We do have a little bit of a payoff for it later on in the episode, but Jessica does look like she is completely broken by this. This idea that her former family have all turned their back on her, basically. Yes, when she's needed, Dorothy will go straight to Jessica and make her look for Trish, you know?
Absolutely. I think as well, it's the other side of it as well, you know, the jealousy of Dorothy Walker saying, you know, you had something special with Trish that I never had, and I was always jealous of that. And so it really does give for an amazingly kind of nuanced and a great performance and relationship between these two, you know, and then it comes down to, you know, Jessica saying, you're a boil on humanity's ass, as usual, because you've had from Dorothy, you're late, as usual. Yeah. And it's, you know, as I say, this moves across so many different levels and is so done, this twisted relationship. I really, really like it. But I think the other thing is, despite this massive rift between Jessica and Trish, yes, Jessica still, has her arm twisted to help Dorothy to look for Trish.
Well, exactly. Dorothy still has that way with Jessica to kind of convince her to do the right thing and go after Trish, They go and see Trish's new place. I love this investigative side of Jessica that comes out as she goes through everything in the apartment and realizes and describes it as a hideout. It's like her superhero hideout, effectively. She's got all the books that she's been using to train her mind. She's got all the equipment she's been using to train her body. And Jessica works out that the fact that she's traded in her beautiful double bed for this futon means that she doesn't want anybody to get close because she's on a mission. She's got something going on. Jessica tracks her down to a hotel where she's been on a stakeout. As she walks in, she realizes this is a place where she must have spent a lot of time over the last few weeks staying there and looking at a suspect, So I love that Jessica just sits there. That's exactly what you're talking about, John, with the pacing of the Jessica Jones show is so different to all of the other shows that we watch and the ones that we talk about, because she's a PI, and as the voiceover says, I could just sit here for days waiting to have confirmation that I'm doing the right thing or not.
Yeah, that stakeout is really, really nicely done. And then, Trish is spotted there, and Trish ultimately has got skills. Dare I say it, skills on toast. It's just really nice that Jessica is there trying to save Trish. Trish has planned this out, so is doing what she wants to do, what she expects to do. And ultimately the guy that Trish has been staking out gets away with this statue that links him to something else that she's investigating. And you see Trish coming back at Jessica after the whole event in this guy's apartment has finished, where, I want to be the hero. You never did want to be the hero.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be the hero now, because I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to do all this work. I want this to happen. But yeah, it's really nice. You have Jessica sort of being off the cuff saying, well, what are you, a cat burglar before that? Or a super cat burglar? But Trish is like, no, I want to do what you had thrust upon you and which you never wanted.
Yeah.
And now I've got the chance to do it because of the failed experiment that was done, and she's got her skills. We see some nice backflips here, trying to escape the grip of Jessica Jones, and we see her jump from the third or fourth floor window down onto the street below, and seemingly being all right after that drop. Although you did notice that she didn't seem to be the best as she walked across the road.
She's not the greatest of runners in the world. I'm not too sure whether that's the actress, Rachael Taylor, or whether that was supposed to be that she made this jump pretending like she was this great superhero and landed and kind of twisted her ankle a little bit. I'm not too sure whether that was the case or not. I'll have to check it out and just see what happens in the next episode. Maybe she doesn't have superpowers. Maybe this is just the Krav Maga that allowed her to do that backflip with Jessica, but it's supposed to indicate that she does have these superpowers that were given to her in the last season.
Yes, certainly that run across the road didn't have the grace or poise of a cat.
It didn't really. Obviously, really need to point out here the whole idea of the cat burglar. In the comic book, she is called Hellcat, so that is the little connection between the two things, right? So obviously that's part of it. One other thing that I think is important to call out about this argument that they have between Trish and Jessica, I think you yourself and Chris used to talk about this quite a lot, and you weren't huge fans of Trish in season 1 and season 2. In fact, in season 2, both of you called out the fact that every time she tried to help or she tried to save people, it all went wrong. And what's happening here is Trish has set up a plan for once and done the right thing. She's trying to encourage this guy to break into his safe, get his gun so that she can find this weapon that will connect this guy to an assault that he committed. And this entire plan is broken by Jessica interfering in a plan she doesn't know anything about, just like Trish used to do.
Yeah,
so it seems like Trish has grown
a
little bit here, and she's become the hero that she wanted to, but because Jessica didn't wait and didn't watch and didn't consult with Trish effectively on what she was doing, she broke the whole thing up.
Yeah, so. I mean, I think for Jessica, the relationship, even though it's changed, is still very much, I'm the hero, Trish is my sister who needs my protection and help.
Yeah.
And so therefore she just sees Trish as being in danger.
Exactly.
Whereas in fact, yes, she has changed considerably. She, as she says, she is the one that is being the detective, the hero, because she wants to do this, not because it's been thrust upon her. So it's a really nice moment, and it's great to have these two connect, even though there is that tension and struggle between the two.
Absolutely. Like as Trish says to Jess, I don't need you anymore. No one needs you anymore. You can now take a back seat, go and do whatever the hell you want to. You've always said you don't want to be a hero. I'm here. I've got it, kind of thing. I love Jessica throwing it back in her face, though, a little bit by saying, but you're not bulletproof. And you had that guy going to get his gun. You're not bulletproof. What a stupid plan that was, So she's still not the greatest in the world at making all of these plans. But as I say, I like that it's Jessica messing up Trish's plan as opposed to Trish messing up other people's plans for once, because that doesn't happen very often. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But let's get on to our final case now. Case note number 5, the title of the episode, A.K.A. The Perfect Burger.
Yes, the perfect burger. We have Eric here, a new guy at the bar. Seems to be a pretty good fit for Jessica here. I love the fact that they are taking bets on some frat boys downing shots, and Eric seems to have, the eye for idiocy. So he knows, or he wins the bet of who is effectively going to cut their hand first from smashing down the shot glasses too hard, because they kind of know that the glass isn't maybe the best quality. These frat boys think they're in a, some kind of Western or something where they're chucking down the shot glasses after knocking it back. And of course, Eric wins, Jessica loses, and I do kind of like the sort of back and forth between these two. I think, they seem like a good fit.
They really do, don't they? Too good a fit? That's always my question. We're on episode 1, and there's a brand new character that's walked into the bar where Jessica's sitting, and he happens to have all of the personality that Jessica loves. Things like, he says to her, optimism is a lie, expect the worst. That's almost something that would come exactly from Jessica's lips, Did he place himself there to connect himself with Jessica? Is there something there? I love that he has this conversation with her about the crap burger that she's eating. And she's like, it's meat in a bun, hence a burger.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, doesn't he call it a turd burger or something? Or it looks like a turd.
He says, enjoy your turd as he's leaving.
Yeah, exactly. So, you have this turd burger, and he goes, right woman, wrong burger, and offers to cook her the best burger, 2 parts chuck, 1 part rib steak, and 1 part flank or something like that. So off they head back to Jessica's, and of course there is a bet here on this, a $50 bet that she will absolutely fall in love with his burger.
I must admit, my mouth was watering, as I said earlier on. I was going to write down the recipe for this burger because I want to make one. It sounds amazing. This a buttered brioche bun as well sounds so good. But yes, it wasn't a euphemism when he said he was actually talking about making a burger. But I love the conversation between the two of them as they get home, and Jessica kind of goes, yeah, nobody really wants to have sex after a pound of meat, do they? Maybe we should have sex now and then have the burger afterwards. Good old Jessica always has that love for immediacy with a partner, doesn't she? She always wants to go straight away with the partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And but they are rudely interrupted by, we think it's Vito at the time, and by this consistent knocking at the door. And so Jessica, gets up to find out who it is, and basically tell Vito to get back downstairs and go back into his apartment.
And does this explain why Jessica's not with Oscar anymore? Because his ex-wife is back on the scene again, still having arguments with each other or between each other over Vito. I think, did Jessica just kind of go, I can't be involved in this anymore?
I think so. I think she probably just did a massive sigh and went, I cannot deal or be bothered with the effort that this may have. So I think that probably explains why Oscar isn't on the radar here, and we've only seen Vito in this episode. But it's not Vito either. Instead, it is a man in black, a masked man in black, who just immediately knifes Jessica in the side. She does manage to kind of knock him over and push him down the corridor, and ultimately as she goes after him, she gets woozy and stumbles over and falls in the corridor. But the guy gets away, runs away. I was wondering whether he was going to come back to, I don't know, do something else.
Finish the job.
But maybe he's interrupted or disturbed because Malcolm is coming out of his new apartment. But I do think he was just, I've stabbed her and now he's getting away.
Yeah.
But Malcolm is there to hand. Eric seemingly is cooking his burger, I would suspect, but Malcolm is there calling for the ambulance and trying to stop the bleeding.
Yeah. It's not a huge amount of time that passes. I'm presuming Eric is going to come out of her apartment pretty quickly as well. But I do like that it's this shot from overhead as Malcolm is holding her in his arms and getting his phone out to call 911 and call the emergency room to come and pick her up. You know, it all happens in an instant, and Jessica's not exactly the kind of person that's going to scream out, even if she has just been stabbed. You know, we hear her final words for the episode are, sometimes you know exactly what to do. It's get the bad guy. And that's all she's focused on. It's not calling out to Eric to call the cops or call an ambulance. She feels like she's going to be okay here, but she's looking at this guy going, kind of picking out every detail she can in case she's going to be able to find him in the future, you know? But as I said, I do wonder, Eric's back in her apartment, in her office right now. How did this guy know that Jessica was going to be there to stab her? Is Eric involved somehow?
Who knows? I mean, it's a really nice ending. As I say, it kind of crescendos to this just shocking ending. You don't expect Jessica to get stabbed. I wasn't expecting it to be Vito now, I have to say.
Yeah.
I was wondering, would it be Trish or someone like that? Or, would it be sort of some random shock? And it certainly was. And that was nice for me. I thought it really ended on this intrigue of who's the guy in black, the masked guy in black. And presumably, you know, the main bad here, or someone connected to him. We don't know. But I liked this. I liked how it all played out, and I thought the ending was really spot on.
Excellent. Not a huge amount of notes for this first episode. We're watching it the day of release. Hopefully we'll get some more notes as we go in through the episodes. John, you already mentioned Captain America's call out in this episode. I think we've mentioned it on previous episodes before. There is a kind of relationship there between Captain America and Jessica. They appeared together in the first issue of Alias when Jessica Jones is approached by Captain America to try and encourage her to be a better superhero, and she curses in front of him. She tells him to F off, basically. So I do like this idea of using Captain America to kind of beat Jessica Jones with the idea that she's not a real hero because heroes don't act like that.
Yeah,
so I think it's just a little reference, not called out specifically, but it's just a little reference to that idea of putting Jessica Jones beside someone like Steve Rogers. They're two very different people on two completely opposite ends of the scale, but Steve Rogers does like Jessica Jones, but just wants her to kind of clean up her act a bit. So I like that being called out by the kid, saying Captain America wouldn't do something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. We also have Whiskey Watch as well.
Yay, back for the third season.
Absolutely. Gillian pouring a Michter's whiskey, an American bourbon, poured into the glass there. Notice a few of the bottles up on the shelf in preparation for Jessica raking through them at a rate of knots.
Gillian's a good secretary, a good personal assistant, filling up the shelf with 5 bottles of Michter's, you know.
And weirdly, this is the same brand of whiskey that Kilgrave offered to Jessica back in season 2. I think it was episode 11 when she was drinking. So yeah, really interesting. And it kind of comes to that opening line of this episode where Jessica goes, some things look perfect when they're not.
Yeah.
And maybe Gillian's a little too perfect. Maybe that's the eyes and ears of the guy in black, or like Eric is too perfect, and maybe he's the eyes and ears of that guy in black. So, I wonder if that's kind of some kind of tagline for this season for Jessica. You know, things aren't perfect with Trish. They never have been with Dorothy. With Jeri, they're not. And even with Malcolm, you know, there's that kind of politeness there because of what they went through and the division that they had in season 2. And maybe some of these things that look too good to be true, like Gillian, maybe Eric, are the ones that we have to just keep an eye on.
Maybe, but always keep your eye on everybody on a show like this, I suppose. John, let's get on to our defense for this episode. Is this your perfect burger, or is there something out of place here for you? Do you defend Jessica Jones, Season 3, Episode 1, a.k.a. The Perfect Burger.
I do defend this episode. I give this 3.5 Super Cat Burglars, or Super Cat Burgers, maybe, out of 5.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really like this. I think it's, it's an opener, and I think it's really a lot of stuff kind of broke apart in Season 2 with the death of Jessica's mum, and just how Season 2 played out. And I kind of quite like this slower pace, PI sort of vibe to Jessica. That's who she is. She is a PI. She investigates, and we got investigation here. We got her interacting with Malcolm. It was great to see Malcolm's new job. It was great to see Jeri struggling with her health issues and trying to just make some kind of sense of what she's going to leave for everyone. And also the connection with Dorothy and Trish. So for me, this was a lot of personal relationships and connections that Jessica was reconnecting to in this opener. A little bit of a slower pace, but ultimately, built and built and built to this mystery stabbing by this mystery guy running away. I think with Eric and Gillian, they seem to really interesting characters, and I really like their vibe here. So I felt this was coming a bit back to basics, and I really like that for Jessica Jones. So I do defend this. Yeah, I give it 3.5 Super Cat Burglars out of 5.
Good stuff.
Derek, do you defend this episode of Jessica Jones?
You forgot how we did this.
I think I did, yes.
I do defend this episode, definitely. I think we had our problems, all of us, towards the end of Season 2. We were running out of our top 5 points because they kept kind of repeating the same points a couple of times. There's enough going on in this episode. While it is a slower pace, there's enough going on that I'm intrigued. I'm interested with what's going on. I like the idea that Jessica's getting stuff thrown towards her from a detective on the police force. I like the idea that there's loads of things and loads of jobs coming in for Jessica of all different types, from kids being kidnapped to people trying to leave their gangs to girlfriends who are trying to get rid of their partners. Loads of different stuff, because back in Season 1, it was all about Jessica going, all I ever do is just follow people that are cheating on their husbands and wives, and that's it. That's all I ever do. So I like there's a bit of a change, a little progression in the world of Jessica Jones. But I like that it's still our Jessica Jones at the centre of it, and that comes out quite solidly in this episode. We see that she's still no happier than she was in the past. She's no more well-adjusted to the world than she was in the past, and now she has this extra idea hanging over from her mother saying that she needs to be a hero, and she doesn't know what that means. She doesn't know how to get to that point. And when she tries, all she gets is Trish, who has taken on the role of hero and even calls herself a hero in this episode. You hear Trish, her best friend, going, stay out of it. You can't be a hero. Yeah. So I like that we've got this progression of the character. It is a bit of a slow burn, but that's just the pacing of Jessica Jones, which I loved so much in Season 1 and most of Season 2. So I'm looking forward to spending more time with this character as we go in through the rest of the season.
Yeah, good stuff. We have no feedback on this episode, but we do want to just bring the comments of the showrunner, Melissa Rosenberg, who was interviewed about this final season by Entertainment Tonight. And she said, realizing it was the last of the Netflix-Marvel relationship, it was really serendipitous for all of us. It's a good time to bring this particular story to a close, so we were really able to craft an ending, a satisfying ending, and really feel like these 3 seasons are 3 acts of a book or a play. The season will tell a really rich, complete story.
There you go. That's what you want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
As I mentioned up front, Melissa Rosenberg was always going to be leaving at the end of Season 3, so it's nice that she has this concept of what way she wants to take it this season. So hopefully we'll get a good season out of it this time.
Yeah, definitely. Just on this, Michael Walling said, so basically Jessica Jones will have a more solid ending than Iron Fist. And Donald Dennis also commented and said, and a more solid beginning as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? With all of the other shows, none of them have known that they were ending. Not even Daredevil, which after the cancellation of Iron Fist and Luke Cage, you would expect that they would have an idea that it was going to end, but apparently all of the cast were taken unawares by the idea that could be the last show they ever did. So they made a story out of it. They made a 3rd season that could be the end, but didn't necessarily have an ending to it, whereas this time, as Melissa Rosenberg is saying, they knew they were able to craft a final episode which ended the story of Jessica Jones at Alias Investigations. So kind of a bit more exciting to see that. John Higley commented that Iron Fist redeemed itself in the second season, and I'm fine with it ending open. There was enough closure for me in that season to be okay with leaving the rest to the imagination. Daredevil ended well, and the third season was incredibly strong. Punisher didn't set up anything new. Luke Cage is the only one that really begged for a third season. I'm excited to see what they do with a properly planned final season on Jessica Jones. Most of the others kind of luckily fell into place, aside from Luke Cage. That's just a tease that we don't see where that character progression goes. So sad to see it end. Hopefully it'll end well. I totally agree with you, John. Yeah, that's kind of pretty much exactly my opinion written into this comment. Luke Cage just had a perfect cliffhanger ending for that show to see what's going to happen with that character in the future. I would love to have seen a season 3 of Luke Cage. It's probably my favourite of all of the Defender series is the second season of Luke Cage. It's definitely up there in the tops for me, and I would have loved to seen how they would have continued the story.
Yeah, no, I'm right on board with you on that for sure. I think Luke Cage is the one where it was actually setting up where they wanted it to go, and to really kind of complete the character, and it is such a shame that it didn't.
While I did love the end of Iron Fist, it felt like they were throwing the dice and kind of going, this is all the cool stuff that we could tell if we get a third season. It didn't feel like it was saying we will get a third season, whereas there was a lot of confidence to Luke Cage and how it ended in the fact that it could get a third season, and if it does, here's our great cliffhanger that we're going to bring Luke Cage into the kind of boss level, which is very cool. Thanks so much for all that feedback. Hopefully we're going to get lots of feedback this season on Jessica Jones. If you want to join us over in our Facebook group, you can join us at facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast. We want to hear from you as well. We want to hear your voice in the podcast. So you can go over to our website at defenderstvpodcast.com or tvpodcastindustries.com and leave a voicemail for us about any of the episodes of the show. Just mark which episode it is.
Yeah, and also you can send email through on feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. Come and join us over on Twitter at DefendersCast. And of course, please subscribe, review us and rate us on any good or evil podcast catcher. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or any other podcast catcher of your choice. Please share the podcast to share the love.
Absolutely. We'll be back with our review of Jessica Jones Season 3, Episode 2, A.K.A. You're Welcome. Later on this week, as we said, we didn't get these episodes in advance, so we're going to be a little bit longer on Jessica Jones than we normally would be. We don't have any episodes in the bag at the moment. We'll have a few times to record over the next week or so, and hopefully we'll get at least 2 out a week as we go. But thank you so much for joining us again for the final season of Jessica Jones.
Yeah, thank you so much, fellow Defenders, for joining us. As always, it is a pleasure. Thanks for calling. You've got podcast heroes on your side now. And when we're back, we'll speak with you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.